Welcome back to Roadmap to 1 Million. My name is Stacy and I am your host. And this is a podcast designed to help you to take what you're already doing to the next level so that you can build a business that allows you to live the life you desire. I give you the marketing strategies, the systems, and support you need to scale. So be sure to follow the show if you are new here. And if you are not new here and you come back every week, thank you so much for coming back. Make sure that you share this episode with a friend that is also in business that would definitely benefit from this kind of information. And as you can tell, today we are talking about 3 big marketing lessons that you can learn from big brands to help you grow your sales. When I worked on Zappos's marketing team, I was leading paid social advertising there. I learned so much about how marketing for an 8-figure brand works. I got the privilege to work with a lot of different departments on a ton of different brand campaigns. I got to work with Amazon's marketing team. I was working directly with reps at Meta and TikTok and Pinterest and really learning how marketing on a large scale works. And today I'm going to be sharing the 3 lessons that I've learned, that I share with my clients, that I want you to learn to apply to your business, or no matter where you're at, whether you are, at that 6-figure mark or that low 6-figure mark, or you're mid 6 figures, you're trying to get that first 7 figures, or if you're trying to go from 7 figures to 8 figures. These are some lessons that I think that you definitely will find impactful and when you apply them, right, take action on them, that's going to help you to grow your business tremendously. Okay, so lesson number 1. Lesson number 1 is that big brands always make data-driven decisions. So I speak to entrepreneurs and business owners often, and a lot of y'all are not relying on data to make your marketing decisions. And like I've asked, when I talk to people, regardless of where they're at, right? Like people who are at making $500,000 a year, if they have Google Analytics installed on their site, they say, no, I don't know what that is. Or they say, I have it installed, but I don't use it. So data is your marketing compass. That's what's going to lead you to the money. And big brands heavily invest in data because it eliminates the guesswork. It helps them to understand their audience on a deep level and refine their strategies and allocate resources wisely. So I remember we were working with this tool that would be able to not monitor conversations, but like kind of aggregate conversations that were about some of the brands that we were working with, to see like what is the sentiment, what are people saying about the brand, how do they feel about it. We were always doing tests. When I was running ads, we were always doing like different kind of tests that would give us so much data. And I remember when I started working there, I just was like, I didn't realize how much data and marketing played together until I started working there. And I had been in marketing for a while before that. Like I knew you needed to make data driven decisions, but goddamn, like everything had to be backed up by data, right? Like everything. And so neglecting data doesn't work for you long term if you want to grow your business, because neglecting data leaves you in the dark. So you end up wasting time and resources on strategies that are not getting you a whole lot of results. Like it's like sailing without a map, right? You just are drifting and hoping that you end up at your destination. But you really do need that data to say, like, where are the leads actually coming from? Where are the sales actually coming from? What kind of touch points do people have with my business before they actually buy from me, right? Like all of that is required. What are the conversion rates on my lead magnets? So you can even see which one are the best lead magnets. Like I just literally did this exercise with my coach earlier today, when I'm recording this podcast, and we were talking about like which of the lead magnets are driving the most leads and sales, which one's performing the best. And so we see which ones are performing the best, and we're like, okay, let's take this one and make it better. Right? So that's how you end up making sure that you're making data-driven decisions. So when you start making data-driven decisions, you notice that you're going to definitely notice that you improve your ROI. But you start to see where you can fine tune your marketing efforts. You start to see where you can optimize. You start to see, start to deliver the right content because you're determined, because you're using your data to figure out what is the best content, right? Your path to $1 million becomes clearer because it becomes about the numbers instead of emotion. Right. So that is so important to make sure that you take this lesson from big brands, is that everything comes back to data. Everything teaches you something. Every test that you run, every campaign that you do, every launch that you do, it leaves data. Data leaves trails. So you want to make sure that you're consciously looking at that data and consciously making decisions based on that data. Not just, you see your marketing numbers every week, but it's, what am I doing with this data? How am I making pivots and decisions based on this data? Okay, so lesson number two. Lesson number two from big brands that I take away and that I apply with my clients is that they focus on incremental improvements instead of quick wins. When I was at Zappos, that was the first place I had heard incremental when it came to marketing. And incremental improvements grow and compound over time. It's just like compound interest if you think about it, right? So being able to go from a consistent 10% conversion rate to a 12% conversion rate to a 15% conversion rate, that all adds up over time, right? And so big brands are playing the long game, right? They understand that success isn't built overnight. And so they understand that small, consistent improvements compound over time and they turn into significant gains. And that's what I mean by focus on incremental improvements, right? Like, how can you make sure that more people are seeing the content that you've already posted because you have a lot of great content out there? How can you make sure that your lead magnets are converting better? How can you make your emails convert better? Right? That's what I mean by focusing on incremental improvements. And so when you start to focus on this and you stop focusing on quick wins and you focus on long-term strategies or incremental improvements, you start to, realize that it's not sustainable to focus on those quick wins. Because it can be tempting. It can be tempting to be like, you know what, let me post this thing and get this quick sale real quick. But that's not sustainable. If you think about where you want to be in the next 5 years or the next year, is the effort that you're putting in matching the output? And so big brands are prioritizing steady growth because it builds a strong foundation for the future. And the thing about it is, like, if you are chasing quick wins, that really can lead to burnout. It's like sprinting a marathon, right? Like, you're just trying to create this short-term success, but you're going to struggle to maintain it, right? Like, you take off and you run it and you sprinting in this marathon and you're like, I'm ahead of everybody, I'm good to go. But then when you get to, I don't know how many miles is the marathon, y'all. I'm not a runner. I tried to be a runner at one point and I just didn't make it. But anyway, when you're running that marathon, you get like, a quarter of the way through and you slowing down because you run out of energy. You can't keep up. You can't keep sprinting forever, right? And so you have to find that balance in your business. You have to find the balance between the sprints and the marathons. So that way you don't end up burning yourself out. You don't end up burning your team out, and you can maintain the success that you created. And so when you start to focus on the incremental improvements, you'll start to see your business evolve. You'll start to build a loyal customer base and your revenue starts to grow steadily, right? So you're building it like a house, just one brick at a time, one step at a time, right? You're taking, you're focusing on creating long-term sustainable growth, long-term sustainable strategies like SEO and podcasting and content and long-form content and building relationships. All of those kinds of things stack up. And so you start to figure out, how can I just do those incrementally better? All right. So then lesson number 3 that you can definitely apply to your business that you can learn from big brands is that they create systems for scale. Big brands thrive because they have systems in place. They can maintain that because they have systems. Let me tell you, there is a system for everything. When I was working in corporate, right? There was a system for so many things. Having these systems, they streamline operations. And then they ensure consistency and they allow for scalability. And a lot of big brands, why they focus on creating systems is because systems reduce chaos and they improve efficiency. Big brands can handle massive sales volumes because they've built processes that scale. Their marketing is able to be scaled. So they're not relying on a whole lot of one-to-one, touches. There are definitely spaces for that, but I'm talking about marketing specifically, not like things like customer service. I'm talking about marketing, right? Like, you're not focusing on one-to-one kind of efforts. You're figuring out, like, how can I put in $1 and get $10 back? How can I put in $1 worth of effort and get $50 worth of effort back? right? Like, $50 of results back. That's what they're focused on. And that systems enabled to do that. So if you're not creating systems in your business, it's really going to be hard for you to keep up with any growth that you experience. And when you start to create systems, when you start to look at everything you're doing and figuring out what can I systematize, how can I create a process for doing this, you find that your business can handle growth more gracefully. You'll see more consistency in your marketing because things are actually, you're following the process. Your team is following the process, and campaigns are getting brought to life because you've created processes for doing that and systems that help them to do that. And most importantly, you can grow without you having to have your hand in everything, without having the CEO have to have your hand in all your marketing. You deliver consistent results. You'll really honestly be well prepared to reach that $1 million mark or that 7 figures that you're trying to get to. Right? So you have to create systems. And I'm not just talking about tools. I don't want you to think like, oh, I just need a tool for everything. I'm not just talking about the tools that you're using. That's a piece of it. But I'm also talking about how our marketing campaigns being brought to life. When someone has an idea for a campaign or we want to move forward with a campaign, what do we do? What tools do we use to bring that campaign to life? What processes do we follow to make sure that the social media person knows to put this out? Right? Or to make sure things follow the consistency and they are aligned with our brand so that you don't have to write every email. You don't have to write every social media post. And so the 3 lessons that you can learn from big brands to help you to grow to 7 figures and beyond is 1, make sure that you are making data-driven decisions. Always. Lesson number 2 is to focus on incremental improvements instead of those quick wins. And lesson number 3 is that they create systems for scale. And so when you work with us as your fractional chief marketing officers, you'll get access to marketing experts who will show you how to streamline your marketing to grow your sales, ensure that your team is set up for success with the right systems and leadership, and will identify opportunities of growth for you by focusing on the right strategies based on your business goals. So if you're curious about how hiring a fractional CMO can help you to grow your sales to 7 figures and beyond while gaining your time back and increasing your impact without spending more time on marketing, even if you have a small and inexperienced team, go to stacyzeal.co/CMO to watch the video and be able to book a sales call with us so we can talk about it. All right, so that's what I got for y'all today. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. Make sure that you are following the show if you are not, and make sure that if you haven't left us a review, you go down and leave us a review. Let me know what you think about this episode. I will see you in the next one.